Hello and welcome to this week's Mortgage Broker Builder Show, the CEO1440 Show, where we talk about all things mortgage, real estate, and different ways to help you maximize your 1,440 minutes every single day. I've got a guest this week. It's a man I recently met. However, this is a man that, as I'm passionate about seeing mortgage bankers, brokers do a lot of business, I think he's going to be able to help us all out a lot. And may not be for every client, but it's definitely for every client. So we've got Mr. Michael Ruiz here. He's with Zoom Casa. He's bounced around a variety of different places inside of iBuyer space, that alternative lending world. And he's going to drop some knowledge here for us and help us out a bit. So Michael, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing very well, John. Thank you so much for having me on. Looking forward to helping everybody out that's listening to this get some new program knowledge, add some arrows to their quivers to make them a little bit more dangerous out there, make them stand out and be as unique as possible.
Heck, this might be a full-fledged quiver. And for anybody that doesn't know, or you're listening to this for the first time, so my whole goal in doing this show, like I said, is to help you do more business. We run a little thing called the Mortgage Broker Builder, where we help brokers, bankers go out there and really maximize, get the most out of all things that you do. I just wanted to mention that. And we've got Michael here. We're going to talk about Zoom Casa a little bit, but can you just give us a rundown of an intro of who you are, kind of where you've worked at, what your experience has been, and we'll kind of pick it up from there. I've got a handful of questions for you here.
Yeah, definitely. So prior to all of this, in a previous life, I was a loan officer. So I have lots of backgrounds being in the loan side of it, VA, FHA, conventional, all that jazz. But eventually, an opportunity came over to me to kind of step into a different realm, and that realm was I like to call it the buy before you sell realm. And this is types of programs that, for a loan officer, puts your client into a position to be able to buy their next home first, sell their departing residence later vacant on the open market. I worked for a couple of companies in the space. I'm sure the names will sound familiar to you. Companies like Knock, companies like HomeLight. I've worked for companies very similar, and those companies do what they do very well. But ultimately, there ends up being a little bit of a hole in the market that hasn't yet been filled until kind of Zoom Casa stepped up and decided to fill that role. So now I'm working with Zoom Casa, found some really awesome opportunities to be able to develop their program further, and as well as create an entirely new program, which I will cover in this conversation a little bit later, that ultimately allows loan officers to fully fledged just have awesome options to be able not only to be able to offer to their clients, but more importantly to be able to offer to their realtor partners. Because although all these programs are out there floating around, they don't service every market, and they don't service every type of home. So just adding more programs that keep filling those gaps just makes you as an individual LO as dangerous as possible. And hopefully today you have those tools, access to them, and be able to utilize them to get more clients, but more importantly, get more relationships with your realtor partners. And that's kind of a little bit about myself, my experience in the field. I've been in this for now going on 8 years, so it's been a while that I've dabbled in this, and I've been having a great time the entire time. Meet lots of unique loan officers, lots of unique agents and clients. That's really the beauty of it all, is getting and speaking from a loan officer, I'm sure a lot of you that are listening to this can relate, is kind of seeing this mix up pieces of puzzles on a table, and your job is to put this puzzle together correctly so that they're able to get into their next home. And I really like that aspect of all of this. The entire field of mortgage is just piecing together puzzles so that they fit perfectly to accomplish goals. And that's kind of my passion, where it comes from in this field.
Yeah, I like to think of, people often will say, oh, I'm a real estate agent or I'm a mortgage broker. We're not in any of those fields. What we are is we're problem solvers. We have
Yep.
people that are here that want to go over here, and often that deals with the house. And we're in the business of solving problems. And the
Yep.
more unique the solutions that you have, the more money you can charge for those. So a lot of people are out there today solving problems that don't even need to be solved. So there's a lot of loan
Correct.
officers spending their day trying to solve a problem that doesn't need help. Most real estate agents, little spoiler alert, most real estate agents don't need help finding somebody to give them a pre-approval. Most clients don't need help finding an apply now link to click. What they need help with is finding a problem for their solution. So couple of things that I'll just give you a highlight of, some things that we're going to hopefully help you if you decide to continue listen. Here's going to be some things that we should help you do. We should help you have some better conversations with your agents, actually bringing things to the table of value for that conversation. The other thing, we're going to help you and point you down a path where you can have more non-contingent offers. So you can have more people out there actually shopping for a home with more non-contingent offers. We're going to provide those clients a little additional certainty. And that today, a lot of people aren't, believe it or not, there's clients that aren't listing their home for one reason and one reason alone. And that is they don't know, they can list their home and sell it, but will they be able to find another one? Are they going to be SOL living on grandma's, in the basement of their parents' house or renting or who knows what? We're going to let you and tell you kind of some different ways that you can leverage those niche programs and maybe sell a little bit more. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, most of the real estate market that I talk to, and I talk to agents all the time, they have no idea what's actually out there. For a lot of them, they still think the bridge loan is the thing that didn't work for them back in, I don't know, 2007, when they tried to go through their local bank, and it's been like, they haven't caught up with the time. So Michael's going to talk to us about a lot of different things. He's seen a lot and done more in this space than most. So I'm really excited to kind of ask him some questions and help flush out how we can help you do more deals. And the one guarantee that I make, and my kind of takeaway from this is, I will make you this guarantee. If you sit here and you spend the next 30 minutes with us, you gain some knowledge. In 6 months, you will not have made less money. So in all likelihood, you probably would have made a lot more. And I encourage you, as you kind of go forward from here, think in your head of those situations where maybe a deal that had I had this, it would have worked. And for most loan officers or real estate agents, if you actually sit back and look over the last couple of years, this is probably not a question of tens of thousands of dollars of income. It could be 100,000 plus of lost income just because you didn't know about these programs. So with that kind of in mind, those are what we hope you get. Hopefully you decide to stay. That's my promise to you. You will come away with some good things, but tell us a little bit. So I've heard about these iBuyers, cash before you buy. There's a ton of different options. Can you just give me like what exactly is like kind of what's out there, what ZoomCasa is offering in the cash before? How about
Yeah.
this? You start. You tell me, do you want to go backup plus, cash offer plus? Where do you want to start? Tell me a little bit about what ZoomCasa has. Hey, John here, not trying to sell you anything, coming at you with a bunch of hot commission breath. But what this is an FYI letting you know that we do have a community where we have shared hundreds of posts, hundreds of sales scripts, techniques, tactics, different things to help you grow your business and maximize your 1,440 minutes every day. I'm not sure if it's for you, but it definitely could be for you. So go in there and check it out. CEO1440.com will take you to a place. You can join our free group, give it a sniff test. If you like it, awesome. We've got a lot of other things. We probably would like to sell you something, but right now that's our gift to you. Get in there, check it out. CEO1440 will take you to a place where you can sign up to be part of our free group. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, I think starting with the topic of buy before you sell and kind of what's available out there, what other companies offer, what differentiates ZoomCasa from those other programs. I think that's kind of the best way to start this. So for many of those, I bring this up a lot when I talk to loan officers. A lot of clients that you work with and a lot of realtors that you work with are kind of stuck in the mindset of the traditional way of buying and selling homes. We need to buy this home, or we want to buy this home. In order to do so, we have to sell this home to get access to that equity, because that equity is going to be our down payment and closing costs aspect of it. And they think I have to sell first to buy later. That's kind of the traditional way of doing it. And a lot of clients, a lot of LO, or a lot of agents are stuck in that mentality of like, this is the only way that it works. The buy before you sell, as the name implies, is flip-flopping those steps, giving the client the ability to access that equity up front first, and then buy their next home and then sell that departing residence vacant. Now, any realtor worth their weight in gold is going to tell you selling vacant is way easier, way more cost effective, and that's more benefit to the client, not only financially, but mentally, selling that home vacant than versus selling occupied, especially if they have lots of kids, pets, or elderly. It just ends up being a huge solution for not only the financial aspect of it, but for the mental and the stress aspect of it. So this realm of these programs is relatively new to the market. What existed before, as John had mentioned, is bridge loans. And then bridge loans have this negative connotation involved with it. As John said, pre 2008 bridge loans could have seemed kind of predatory. And in some cases, they were predatory. But what this buy before you sell programs do is what they did is they actually made it profitable not only for the client but for the company that offers it as well. So it's not predatory. It's actually offering a solution to a massive problem that most folks have when wanting to buy another home and selling a departing residence. So this buy before you sell space has different variations of that program. You can have the traditional way of selling it, like with an iBuyer route, is what a lot of people will understand that. So John brought up the term iBuyer. If you're not familiar with it, you should be, because what it is it's basically an investor, somebody coming in offering 70% of the value of the home. Client gets that money, and then they use that money to do whatever they need to. That's kind of like the quick, fast way to do it. What our program does, which is called Cash Offer Plus, is we like to call ourselves iBuyer 2.0, because we are offering to purchase the home from the client. We're saying, hey, client, we're going to purchase your home between 60 to 80% of the value. We're going to give you those funds, and then you're going to be able to buy your next home. But that 2.0, or what our Cash Offer Plus, what that plus symbols means, is that we're actually going to help you sell that home on the open market. And once you sell that home, we're going to cut you a second check, so that you're still walking away with most profit. Unlike an investor where they're walking away with that 30% difference, ZoomCasa is actually giving you the opportunity to walk away with the second check and get some remaining money or the remaining equity from your home. So it ends up being a fantastic solution for the client that needs to get rid of their home because of work issues or family issues or just whatever. That maybe they want to downsize, maybe they want to upside because they're planning on having lots of kids. There's lots of unique ways to utilize these buy before you sell programs. Now, our Cash Offer Plus program is a little bit more unique in the sense that we're flat out actually purchasing the home. And you're thinking, well, doesn't that make it kind of like the traditional way, because you're buying the home, so they're selling their home to you,
Right.
and then they're buying their next home, but then it's getting sold again? Doesn't that just add a kind of another part of it? And yes, it does. But what it does is it actually simplifies lots of other aspects of it. So let's talk about companies like Knock and Homelight and how they run their businesses. Essentially, what they do is, instead of them flat out buying the home, what they do is they're actually just putting a backup offer on that departing resident. So I'm going to get into a little bit more of these crazier terms here. You're going to hear conventional, you're going to hear Fannie Freddie. Most people that are listening to LOs are LOs, so they're familiar with the terminology is. But essentially, they're putting a backup offer on the home, and they're saying, hey, this is a non-contingent offer on your client's departing residence. And Fannie and Freddie recognize that and say, awesome, we don't have to count that departing resident's mortgage payment against their debt to income ratio when getting them approved. And that's fantastic. So as an LO, you're like, hey, this is sweet, because now I'm only counting their new purchase against them. That departing residence is no longer counted in the picture. So that means a higher approval. Now, with that backup offer, those companies also offer a bridge loan. So they're basically pulling equity from the home, giving that to the client, and the client's now going to purchase their next property, which is great. They purchase that next home. Now they have this departing residence to sell on the open market vacant, right? Just like ZoomCasa does. Both of these homes are being sold vacant. Now, this is where the main difference comes in. Because companies like Knock and Homelight are not purchasing that home flat out, they just have that backup offer, that client still technically has their departing residence mortgage payment to make on that property. Whereas ZoomCasa, because we're flat out buying it, we're waiving those liens, so those liens are completely removed. So mortgage is gone. If they have a HELOC is gone. They don't have any payments due to that departing residence. So for clients that are more tight on income, those buy before you sell solutions coming from Knock and Homelight might not be the ultimate choice, because there are payments to still be made. Now, mind you that being on the loan officer side, you usually have 1 or 2 months to sell your home, or you have 1 or 2 months before you have your first mortgage payment. So that means that you can actually sell that home pretty quickly and not have to have the dual mortgage payment. So that's kind of the solution-oriented way that Knock and Homelight kind of run their program. Now, going into a little bit more further between the differences between these buy before you sell programs, they're both fantastic solutions. They both ultimately do the same thing. But where ZoomCasa steps in and kind of opens that door significantly wider compared to these other programs is we offer something that I think is fantastic, which is the ability to renovate. And why that's extremely important is because companies like Knock and Homelight want homes that are turnkey, ready to go, that are going to sell as quick as possible on the open market, but they then neglect those homes that need rehab, that need renovation, that ultimately could benefit from it and sell for significantly more by doing those renovations at the end of the day. And this is where ZoomCasa comes in and says, hey, client, now that you're out of your home and in your new one, you now have the opportunity to determine, do you want to renovate or rehab your home so that we can actually sell it more than what it's worth, and what it's currently worth. And most clients that utilize our program will take advantage of that, and they will get the work done, sell it for more, and they're actually walking away with more money in their pocket than they would have if they just sold it as is traditionally. So it ends up being a fantastic solution in the sense that this is available to various home conditions as well as various loan types. So companies like Knock and Homelight, as you heard me mention, they tend to live in the Fannie and Freddie realm. So those are the rules that they have to follow. So that means they're going to be conventional and jumbo. Those are the main two loan programs that they work with. Now, why they don't work for Govy loans is particularly because those underwriting rules that allow them to waive that departing resident's mortgage payment don't exist in that realm. So ZoomCasa's program, because we're flat out purchasing that home, we're therefore not relying on those loopholes that we have to jump through for underwriting purposes. So that's the benefit of our program in the sense that because we're flat out buying the home and waiving those, removing those liens, now VA borrowers or FHA borrowers are able to step into the realm and utilize our services as well. So if you have a VA borrower that wants to purchase VA again, they have some equity in their home, but that home also needs some repairs, ends up being a really sweet solution for them. So this is kind of like the space of buy before you sell. This is kind of what differentiates current companies that are there. So Homelight and Knock, they operate very similarly. ZoomCasa accomplishes the same thing, but it's just that the door is significantly wider and the types of properties that we can work with. And one last thing to kind of differentiate the two is, you heard me say this multiple times, those companies like those turnkey ready homes that are going to sell relatively quickly, which means that they're really particular about the markets that they operate in. They want those really fast moving markets that are going to be ready to go. ZoomCasa is actually able to work within all 50 states as well. And what's unique about this is that because we're flat out buying the home, there's no licensing issues that have to be involved in that either. So we're available in all 50 states. We can work with rural properties. We can work with extremely large properties. What it comes down to is when we review the property, the main difference is going to be how much we can advance to the client to be able to get into their next step in life, which is purchasing their next home. So that's kind of the space of buy before you sell.
Hey, John here. If you're anything like me, you like to get in, poke around, you like to check things out before you go diving in head deep. We've got a group where you can do that very thing. CEO1440 is a community. We post in there all the time. There's hundreds of different people, a lot of different conversations, and things that you may be able to take away and apply into your business. Now, the guarantee, I can't make you any guarantees. It's not going to 5X your business, but what it might do, it could 5X your business, probably will give you some things that you can tangibly take away and start applying in your business every single day. Everything we post may not be for you, but it definitely could be for you. So check it out. The group's free. Would love to see you in there. CEO1440.com. Enjoy the rest of the show. Yeah, and some things that I would like to add there. That was a lot. But just to kind of unpack it a little bit. So there's a ton of people out there for whatever reason, right? They have to get rid of that trailing residence before they can move on and buy a new one. Now, if there's somebody that makes, a couple $100,000 a month and they like covering the payments is no problem. Like they can just go and do this, but that's not everybody. So like I said before, if you go back over the last couple of years, how many clients did you run into personally that you couldn't figure out? Like they just have that house and I can't work around it. I can't get a cosigner because maybe they needed to qualify for the new property. Like they just have to qualify and they have to cover all these payments and it doesn't work. Or there are some standalone bridge products, right? I'm going to get into some things that aren't Zoom Casa, but there's some standalone bridge products where they'll give them a bridge. And it's just a bridge and they can still go and get their first mortgage someplace else. A lot of those programs required the client to take the bridge through them and then do kind of an inferior new first lien product at higher rates. And it's a crappier first lien, because they're trying to do that. And again, their hands are just tied. It's a lot of friction, and there weren't really good options. We're not a place where you didn't really get kind of beat up pretty badly by doing something like this. And one thing that Michael mentioned there, since they're not lending, a lot of the kind of the buy before you sell programs aren't available maybe in your state because they have to be licensed there in order to do this. So it's just another option. And I know you've heard on other podcasts, I've had people on that do cross collateralization. So just as a loan officer, what I think you need to do, and Michael mentioned a lot of quivers, like having a lot of quivers. And I completely agree. You need to have a variety, not only of arrows, but of quivers where every client that comes to you can get something of value. And Zoom Casa, like we're going to get into it a little bit. And I even have a spreadsheet that we could kind of show people how this works. But um, this is a program that for sure you've run into situations where it would make sense for a client. And maybe we'll look at a spreadsheet at the end to not mess up the podcast part of it. But there are scenarios where you have a client that this could benefit them in a really big way. Um, so
I think that's a great way to segue, John, really quickly into something that I did want to mention is all these quivers, right? Having these quivers available. I mentioned in the very beginning, a lot of realtors and clients don't even know that it's an option. So by you even bringing this up as a potential solution, I've heard from many LOs that they don't necessarily use the program, but just being able to offer a solution to a potential problem that they have, and a potential problem they might have not even known they've had, has just gained them the trust enough to keep that relationship going, and they eventually do some sort of program with them or just flat out get the mortgage at the end of the day. I think it's the opportunity to be able to build trust, knowing that you're offering awesome programs to actually be able to help them out.
I have a whole program called The Riches and the Niches. It's a complete blueprint of how do you go after, like, what is it? What makes a good niche product? How do you focus on agents? What do you say to them to do it? And this for sure is one of the greatest conversation starters because it's not that you close fast or that you're a broker or that you know the best place for a gluten-free sandwich in your city. This is actually something that will help put commissions in their pocket. um, so I do think that people way undervalue the ROI of something, the return on investment of the conversation that you have that leads to a different deal. You will close more conventional 20% down deals by having this particular quiver because you're going to have better conversations and meet more people. So let's just kind of walk through, and I've got a lot of use case scenarios for this, and I'm running a little case study myself. I'm going back in June, so in the next couple of weeks, I'm going back into gung ho. I'm going to go out because I get the question all the time, John, what would you do if you were a loan officer and you were starting at scratch? What would you do? Well, this would be a big focus of what I would do. Would be I would go out and start reaching out to agents or things that their loan officers are currently missing. And I just had a scenario come to me today that came across my desk that I think is a great example. And I'm going to share a spreadsheet. If you're listening someplace out there and you're only listening, this is going to kind of not be great, but we're going to share it anyways because the people that are here that are getting this, but I'm going to share it. Here was the scenario that came to me today. I think that the value today was like 650. I'm going out of my head. Um, this particular thing, the person owed like 425. And this was a house that was just a couple years old and they have to move. They've got relocated for work. They have to move. They have to do something. And so thereafter, there is no renovations happening here. This thing's going to sell for roughly what they think it's worth today. No renovation budget. They need to get some money up front. And Zoom Casa will typically, say they're going to send, using 70% in this scenario. And they need to get rid of this house so they can buy a new one. And I'm going to say that the agent's still going to go out, list it, make money on it because they have to pay those things. But let's just say it becomes a 5% sale. Here's kind of the different breakdown. So I had those assumptions. If they go and list this conventionally with a conventional sale, it doesn't work for them. They want to sell today. This is their option. They'd list it, they'd sell it, they'd get about 187. That would be just putting it on the regular market, waiting. They don't have that luxury. They have to sell fast. If they go out and find an investor to come in and buy it, they're going to give them, in this scenario, it's 70 cents on the dollar. They're going to get their home sold. They'll be able to move on to the next thing. And they're going to walk away with about 26 grand. The way that the Zoom Casa program will work, and Michael may elaborate a little bit here. Transaction number one, Zoom Casa is going to come in and buy the house almost identical to what the investor would. They're going to walk away with their 20 grand. They're going to pay 25 grand. They're going to pay off their mortgage. They now no longer own the house. DTI, all that stuff's out of here. But here's where it becomes really different is that they then at this point are going to go ahead, list it with their agent. The agent's not losing commission here. They're going to list it with their agent. Zoom Casa is going to clip a fee for doing this. Their agent's going to get paid. Zoom Casa is going to get paid. They're going to pay back the original 455. When that house sells, that client's getting a second check for 118 grand. So yeah, there's a difference between this and this. But that difference is speed, convenience, all kinds of things. Kind of think Carvana. You can go and sell your car on Facebook Marketplace and have 72 people show up at your house, keep your car clean, oil change, kicking tires. Like it could take you 3 months to sell it, or you call Carvana, they give you a price, they show up 2 days later with the trailer and they take your car. So this is a really cool use case of it. This is just for somebody that doesn't even there's no renovations or anything at all. Did I do a decent job explaining that?
Yeah, I would say that's a fantastic way of going through it. And do I have the ability to share my screen too? Because I actually have one that I ran into yesterday where we can kind of see that version. And then we can also see a version where renovations are needed. So let's go ahead and if you want to type it in on yours, or if I can share my screen, either one is fine.
Yeah. Or, we'll do yours. Let me just show a quick example here. If I take that exact same house, I just want to add to it just really quickly.
Yeah.
So you kind of see where that's at. But now what if this house was, mom just got put in a nursing home and kids now have taken over the house. Mom doesn't owe that much. Mom owes 200 grand on the house. And, dad passed away in 03. Mom hasn't done anything since. There's still Formica, countertops. And you're going to come in, instead of it being worth 650, this house is actually worth probably 775. If you do some light rehab, like some just renovations, like just spruce it up a little bit. And let's say it costs 75 grand to do that. Now the kids are left with the choice today, that's 75,000. The kids are now left with the choice. They got to start paying for mom in the nursing home. They got all these things. So this is you run into this scenario all the time. Your city is filled with these scenarios. Let's go in and look at this scenario. I'm just going to go and do the same thing. Kids can go find some investor that's going to give them 70% roughly of the after renovated value. They're going to net 263. They put it on the standard market today. So just open market. They go out there, they put it on the market. They wait. Who knows how long it takes to sell. They've got to declutter it, get mom's stuff out of there, clean it up, probably have some concessions and stuff. They net this, or they do it this way. Kids get 175 today. Zoom Casa walks them through, does the reno with them, does the rehab. They end up selling it for 775. They net 404. Like it's almost the same price as a full offer here. And so this is where it becomes powerful, is on those kind of ugly duckling houses. And I'm going to stop sharing. And Michael, if you want to kind of share an example, by all means, you can share a real live one. But this was in my desk today. It came across my desk, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Hey, if you're listening to this, quick reminder, we have a free group, CEO1440.com. Jump in there. Tons of posts, tons of information, a lot of stuff we're bringing day in, day out to help you do more with your 1,440 minutes every single day. CEO1440.com. Check it out.
This is a property in Arizona that I walked through with a loan officer yesterday. This is actually his parents that he's working with. Very similar to that exact situation you just covered, John. Mom passed away in December. dad is just not really taking care of the home anymore, and they want to actually bring him into the house. Della is really looking out for his dad there. So they're saying as is 475 with some light work, we can bring it up to 575. So they have $80,000, so quite a bit of equity to work with here. But you're saying that putting a little bit of TLC into it, honestly, what it was going to be like a deep cleaning and just replacing some carpets was going to be really that we needed. Our advance rate coming in at 70%, and then with our fee, of course, there we're assuming agent commission, same 5% at the end of the day. And when we look at it compared to other options, so we have the investor offer, we have the conventional sale, and then we have the differences in prices here. So almost to even the investor option, they're just walking out 270 and that's it. We're actually getting pretty close by just for that first check coming up with $200,000 to get access. So this is paying off the remaining mortgage. This is covering the renovations on the home, and they're still walking away with $200,000 in their pocket to use towards whatever they need to take care of. In this case, if they're buying a new home, that's a pretty sizable down payment. Once they sell that home after the repairs are done, again, we're assuming it sells for 575. They're walking away with an additional 182. So 382 total, compared to if his dad sold it as is, they're actually losing about like 20K.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a fantastic option too, when the home can really use the renovation aspect of it. This is where the differences come in terms of, yeah, it's going to cost a little bit of money, definitely, but it's also going to cost a little bit of money to do the renovations. But even in those two instances, they're still walking away with more money in their pocket. And what I think is really important here too is that even in the scenario that you brought up, maybe this one was like $10,000 more. There's also the mentality of it too is $10,000 to sell a home. There's the waiting aspect of it that can also eat into the stress of the whole scenario. Is how long is that home going to sit on the market? Because it's not renovated, maybe it's not showing very well, or if dad's still living in the home, it's also not showing well, right? Dad's not taking care of it. So in this case, dad's out of the picture in his new property already. And now we have this vacant property. It's spruced up, looking as good as it can be. As many viewings as possible as they can get on that, or as many showings as possible as they can get on that property. It's just going to make the opportunity to sell that home at market value significantly higher. So again, something that I really like to emphasize too is that this after repair value is not something that we just make up. That's actually coming from the realtor themselves. So something that we do is we actually speak with the client and the realtor as well. So, although it's great for you to have that information, but you're always free to pull us into that conversation so that we can actually get these numbers from them. Because we want the realtor to be able to trust the program itself and trust in their own knowledge to say, hey, this value, this 575, we think this is extremely reasonable value if this home were to get fixed up. This isn't a Zoom Casa assumption. This is an actual coming from a realtor. I just like to emphasize that.
Yeah, I think that it has its place. And like I say, it may not be for every client that you talk to, especially on the agent side. But there's definitely a good number of clients that you do speak with throughout the course of the day, just having this there. And if you start thinking about the power of it for your realtor partners, they can show up at a listing appointment with this cash offer in their pocket, or they can call on a for sale by owner with a cash offer in their pocket, or you're coming to that person that's, shopping you to 4 or 5 other people with some solution other than, Rocket Mortgage or United Wholesale and a quick closing, and you're going to enroll them in, something at the end of the day. You're actually adding value.
Correct.
So anybody that's listening to this, we'll get inside of here. There'll be some notes someplace how you can get a hold of Michael to run through scenarios. ZoomCasa.com is their website, and you can go in there and look at some different things. We even on the real estate side, and I do more with this product actually with real estate agents than I do over here on the lending side, helping them understand different ways to sell it, angles, how do you present and speak to clients. So we do a bunch of different stuff. Like I said, I'm a big fan. And just, I like, you guys can go do business with Michael. I am not incented for Michael to, have you do business here. I'm incented for you to do business and do a lot of it. And then ultimately give me some kudos in the coaching world. So that's super cool. The next thing that I wanted to talk about. So we've got that whole option over there, and there are a lot of use case scenarios, a ton of different places where you try and squeeze in a bridge loan. What is the, so you've got the backup plus. So we talked about the full cash offer plus program.
Mhm.
What is backup plus? How can loan officers use that? We've already kind of talked about it, but
Yeah.
what,
So
what is
back
backup plus from Zoom Casa?
Yeah, so Backup Plus is actually a program that I created with the CEO alongside a few of my like closest trusted LO partners. So what this program ultimately does, and we're just going to call it what it is, it removes the contingency. And for most clients, removing contingency is probably the most important part as they're making offers on their next property. Now, this program is specifically designed for the client that has the assets, but doesn't have the income. So I'm sure you've heard that before. You've run into the scenarios. Usually, it's like retired folks that are in that boat. They have lots of assets to work with. It's just that that income is kind of killing their ability to be able to buy first and sell later. So what Backup Plus is, it is ultimately what companies like Knock and Homeline offer, where they're putting a backup non-contingent backup offer on that departing residence. And what's awesome about it is that it works in all 50 states where there's limitations in these other programs. And at the same time, it's also as cost effective as it can get. But now, what it actually solves is it removes the departing resident's mortgage payment from the DTI. So when you're pre-approving your clients, you're only taking into consideration that incoming residents, so that you can get a higher approval for them. But it's also more importantly removing the home sale contingency so they can actually purchase that next home. As you know, the market gets really competitive, and especially for folks moving into like the new build world, removing that home sale contingency is number one, usually step number one for new builds. So being able to offer this program to the client, this allows them to get contingency waived and get a higher approval. Now, something that is absolutely crucial for you to understand as the LO is that this program does not lend any money. So we're not unlocking equity. This assumes that the client has their own assets to work with to provide their own down payment and closing costs on that next property. This is solely designed to remove that home sale contingency and get that approval aspect of it for the DTI purposes. So why this is needed is, again, there was a huge push for it in the other companies that I worked with. They kind of designed their own version of it. It just wasn't as cost effective. It didn't work in lots of markets. And ultimately, there was just a lot of folks that really needed to rely on this program, but it just wasn't available to them. So, what I set myself to do was to create this program alongside the CEO to say, hey, man, there are a lot of folks that need this program that have been denied. And I think by reapproaching them with a fantastic solution is gonna honestly net a lot of benefit for everybody involved. And at the end of the day, it really did. We've had lots of positive traction coming from LOs that we spoke with. We've even heard from LOs directly when we created it, so that they give us their own input in terms of how to price it, how to structure it, what types of scenarios their clients are in for it to actually make sense. So this was truly a ground up project designed by loan officers for loan officers.
And some case studies here are just some places. So anytime where your initial thought would go to, in order to get them to qualify, I need to set up an IRA distribution, right? Like that happens every day. Somebody that's listening to this probably has recently just went out and had a client go out and taken an extra 11 grand a month in their IRA distribution. Yeah. You're waiting now on getting that first check deposited so you can have proof that it's going to continue. All those hoops you have to jump through. Boom, you have this. You sign up, you put it on there. Lo and behold, that payment goes away. You put 5% down on their new conventional sale. Off you go. And when the client gets ready, when that home sells, they can recast their loan. There's so many options that they can do. But tell me about it. And maybe I think my understanding of the program is this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and then we can talk about what else is out there. But your program, comes with some flat fee to do the program, plus like I believe it's 1% of whatever they borrow. And then they have 6 months to vacate the property. Is that correct? Hey, I want to get a quick message to you here about adding value. And our industry is terrible at telling you, do this, do that. So many people want to add value to you, but value is not in what I give, it's what you receive and whether it makes sense for you or not. We've got a community, CEO1440, where we post every single day, lots of things, sales scripts, a whole plethora of things. So I don't know what particular things are going to add value to you. They probably all won't, but definitely some of them will. The community is free. Would love for you to get in there, sniff around, poke around, and maybe there's more stuff we can do. But I know it starts because if you're anything like me, you like to get in there, check things out on your own before you go and sign up for some large commitment. So get in there, check out our group. I bet that there's something in there and there's little things that you can do that had you known 6 months ago, you'd be making more money today. Join the group. Look forward to seeing you in there. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the show.
That's correct. Yep. So our fee is a flat $950 processing fee. That's basically for us to generate that backup offer. Now we actually give them two options to be able to pay on. Most of them are going to take option one, but I'll cover both of them. The first option is 1% of the AVM valuation of their property. So whatever the property is worth, 1%, and it has a cap of $10,000. So for allos that work in the luxury market or high value homes, anything above $1 million, the most that they're going to pay is $10,000 to utilize the program, which is huge because other companies have floors. They have a $7,000 minimum. So for homes that are not in these luxury environments, a lot of them are having to pay way more than their initial value because of just how much that minimum is. So what this does is it really satisfies both markets that are not high value homes and extremely high value homes to give them a fantastic solution. Now, the second option, and that first option is due upfront. So for us to generate that initial backup agreement, that's paid upfront. Now, if the client wants to defer the payment till the very end and say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to pay you guys back when my home sells in the open market, we actually offer that option as well. And that's 2% of the final sales price of the departing residence. That 2% option does not have a cap. So most of the clients that utilize this program are utilizing option one, obviously saving them a whole lot of cash at the end of the day. So that's kind of how we run the pricing of it. Other programs that exist, again, will usually be around 2% with a minimum $7,000, where ours is a 1% maximum $10,000. So cost-wise, it just makes the most sense. Then there's the runway. And the runway is once they close on that new property, we give them 6 months to sell their departing residence vacant on the open market, which is huge. Most companies that offer these types of programs either give them 3 months or 4 months. So ours opening it up to 6 months. Now we don't think it's going to take 6 months to sell the home. At that point, it's something maybe wrong with the realtor or the market just completely crapped out. But at the end of the day, we give them just a really comfortable timeline because sometimes if they're in the hoarding stage of their life, it's going to take maybe a month to get out of the home and get the home ready for listing. So we just want to give them as much time as possible, not only to prepare for the home, but also to move comfortably into their next property.
And you mentioned this, but your competitors, the fee is more. So
Yep.
they're all close to 2%. I think, someplace in that. If somebody is doing this on a $200,000 house for you, it's paying 1%. Over there, there's a minimum of $7,000. Now with the competitors, they pay that up front also. Do they pay that fee up front?
Our competitors, well, their fee is due at the end. So it's when it's sold on the open market.
So similar to when you go on the pay at the end part, it's closer there. Where you guys really shine is if somebody wants to come in and do that up front to get that guaranteed offer, you're going to have that in hand.
Correct.
Which, every single day I talk to people in my, coaching world. Oh, had a deal fall out. The other house didn't sell. And had I known about this, I bet there's a couple dozen deals I could have just thinking in my head. We could have saved this for Jimmy over there and this particular deal. So I think that it's a fantastic option. And also for the client that's not looking today, they don't want to go out and do something because they're concerned. They don't want to buy that new house, because of concern of what happens with the other one, or maybe they can't, or they're locked in and they want to go out and find a new house before they sell theirs. Like this just works so great for them.
I want to add one more thing too in qualifications, or really the scenario that the client is in for this to work. So when we look at qualifying properties, we look at the LTV position. Most buy before you sell programs will look at any LTV position. Obviously, we want some equity in the home for it to make sense. Now, other programs will usually have it be like max 70% LTV, so 30% equity position. For our backup plus program, we need them at a 90% maximum. So that's huge. So just 10% equity position to be able to utilize this program. So folks that are in a little bit of a tighter situation, have the assets, need to get out of their home into their next one, this ends up being a fantastic solution for them too, because it's just as kind as it can get for the client's actual scenario. So 90% LTV is what we're looking for, maximum. More equity, obviously, the better it is for the client, because they could have access to more funds or whatever it is that they need to work with. But for Backup Plus, we need them in at least a 10% equity position. For Cash Offer Plus, we want them in at least a 20% equity position.
Yeah, just fantastic options. Again, the
Yeah.
more you know, the more you know. And any other just highlights or things maybe that we didn't cover here? I think there's a lot of use case scenarios of how you could sell this. If you
Yeah.
have agent partners that are interested in this program, reach out. We do a whole webinar series directly for agents. We've got a community where we can put agents in. We teach them how do agents, what do you say when you call a for sale by owner? We've got a whole group and community inside of school. So it's kind of a separate offshoot where we teach and share a lot of stuff with agents. So if you have something there, definitely reach out. Anything that we missed here or any just like highlights? I know you probably just want people to reach out to you with questions.
That's probably best case scenario, is for if you have any client that you think would be an option, would be to reach out to me. So something again that we do here that's different than what's out there is that we have basically availability for every person involved in the scenario. And what that means is that most programs, you're kind of expected to know everything and then go out there and sell it, and you're kind of on your own playing telephone with the company. Here at ZoomCasa, we actually have folks that are available to speak to clients, folks that are available to speak to realtors, to speak to you through the entire process. So they can just pick up the phone, call us, and we can answer all of their questions. But that's going to start with you reaching out to us to get some information or to run the scenario by us. Because something that you'll come to appreciate about ZoomCasa is that we're pretty blunt about about our programs, especially me. I'm really blunt about, hey, what makes sense here? Is it going to be our option? Is it going to be another option? Let's actually run through the scenario. Instead of let's just take the guesswork out of it and just have you contact either myself or John. We're both more than capable to talk about these programs. And I know John will provide my information too, but don't hesitate to ever reach out if you think that the client is in a potential situation to be a candidate for the program. Let's talk about it. We're more than willing to bend our own internal rules to make it work out for your client as well.
Yeah. And I have firsthand knowledge of, deals that they've made work by, finding different contractors, by doing different things. And the longer I'm in this space, the more I learn. Like I'm more equipped today than I've ever been in my career to be able to, provide better solutions to people. And I try to just be a sponge. And when I find things that I think work and make a lot of sense, and this has been a space I've been spending a lot of time in, how do we unlock people that are reluctant to sell? How do we help make that transition easier today? And ultimately, loan officers, you're not captive to, the people that are out there clicking on, Lending Tree. There are clients out there with a little bit of knowledge that you can free up. There's a ton of locked up inventory because there's people that just don't know that they can buy before they sell. So they're not listing, they're not doing anything. They're sitting around on their hands waiting for interest rates to come down, or Ben Bernanke or a new president or somebody to do, I don't know what, but they're waiting, and there's better options for you. Well, this has been great. I truly appreciate it. I think you've got an awesome program. Loan officers, if you're listening, this could put an extra 30, 40, 50 grand in your pocket, 100% for sure.
Thanks for having me, John. I really appreciate this. Looking forward to working with all the LOs. Even realtors are chiming in too. Love to connect with you and get you as much information as possible.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you all. If you got questions, concerns, reach out to either of us.